How's it going, everyone? Got quite a lot to talk about in this video as far as PlayStation updates go. Honestly, I am so far behind on covering news on this channel because we have been so knee-deep into Black Friday coverage, but it's nice to circle back and talk about some of the news that we have missed. So we'll get to all of that. As noted on Bloomberg, obviously this was fairly big news. Sony is working on a handheld console for PlayStation games to rival the Switch. It is still noted to be years away. I primarily want to go over my thoughts on a potential handheld platform and why, in the current landscape of gaming, it's going to be a lot different than what I think people are nostalgic about with the PSP and even the PS Vita. While the PS Vita was a commercial failure, there's a core audience that absolutely loved the Vita. I am one of them, but we're never going to go back to those days, and I think it makes all the sense in the world to not go back to those days for a variety of reasons. And also, breaking news yesterday, all good things, a look back at Shuhei Yoshida's 31 years with PlayStation. This kind of came out of nowhere, but an end of an era as far as that's concerned, so we'll talk about that. And on top of that, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, confirmed to not getting DLC, so Part 3 can be released sooner. I think that makes a lot of sense if they want to get it out ASAP, but yeah, we'll talk that at the end of this video. Right off the bat, there's been a lot of discussion around the potential of this Sony handheld platform that is, it should be reiterated, noted to be years away, and it might never even come to fruition, but they are working on a handheld console on PlayStation 5 games to rival the Switch. Again, I don't think anything really needs to rival the Switch. The Switch is kind of on an island on its own, and I don't even think Sony and Nintendo are direct competitors, and I think there's even a chance that Sony, after the release of LEGO Horizons, may release some of their back catalog titles on Switch too. I've seen a lot of people bring that up as an idea, and I totally think it's possible. But as far as a handheld platform to play PS5 games, that makes a lot of sense, but again, it's not going to be out for a very long time, and it's not going to be like the PSP, at least I don't believe it will be the case, where it's going to be something that gets its own dedicated games. There's no reason anymore to segment your games and have exclusives on a handheld platform. We saw that with Nintendo. They've just baked it all into one uniform platform, so if you want to play handheld, you can play handheld. If you want to play on a console, you can play on console. But as far as this is concerned, Sony's a little bit different because let's say the PlayStation 6 comes out, it's not going to be this uniform platform that comes built in with a handheld mode or a handheld console to go along with it. However, as a separate console, I think for the more hardcore consumer, we saw that PlayStation Portal actually did kinda decent, all things considered, but for a console to play PS5 games natively, I think you're just migrating over your PlayStation Network library, and it would, I would imagine, have to be a case where they are, let's just call it PSP2 verified, PSP3, I guess, if you want to call the Vita PSP2, but it would have to be verified, much like the Steam Deck has those verified games, but just being able to run PS5 games and the back catalog prior to PS6, and then some of the PS6 games, I don't know, you might be able to get them verified for this handheld platform. That's what I think is the route that they should go. Long gone are the days where you're gonna have a studio like Sony bend and invest millions upon millions of dollars for them to do an Uncharted Golden Abyss so it can sell the PlayStation Vita. I don't think we're gonna do that. I think what we're gonna do is try to get some of the games that already exist to run on this handheld platform and to make everything available on both the PlayStation 6 and the PlayStation 5 handheld, whatever you want to call it. And I think that's the best route to go. I don't believe this handheld is going to be out until maybe right before the PS6 or as a complimentary item to the PS6 dropping as well. But also, you have to think about PSSR. I think the idea of a handheld platform that is utilizing PSSR and you can run PS5 games that are upscaled to 1080p at 30 frames per second, that's the area I think that makes a lot of sense. If you look at the performance of the Steam Deck came out a little bit after the PlayStation 5. I want to say it was spring of 2022, and that's a platform that can mostly play PS4 games, like PS4 level games, and then also there are a few PS5 titles that can run on the deck as well. That's what I think Sony should be aiming for as far as the power of it, because by the time this handheld comes out, we'll be in the PlayStation 6 era, but I don't think it's going to be a case that every PS6 game is going to be able to run on this handheld console. No way, but the existing titles, and what would be great about a platform like like this is that you have a built-in catalog of games. You guys have been buying games on PSN for years and years, so when you buy this handheld console, you already have that library that hopefully, fingers crossed, Sony won't be whack and make people double dip, but you'll have that PSN library completely migrate over, and you'll have a bevy of games that you can play. And there are games that release on the PlayStation 5 that I'm just like, man, I probably would prefer to play some of these games on a handheld device. Freedom Wars is coming out. That's a game that was designed for the PlayStation Vita. I would love to play it on a handheld console instead, and I feel like for games like that are coming out on PS5, giving people the option to pick up the handheld console or or a main PlayStation console or both, and then having things like cloud save, and then also you could have PlayStation 6 titles being streamable onto the PS5 if you want to offer that as well. But PS6 games being natively played, that's not going to happen. PS5 games being natively played, let's say it comes out in 2027, 2028, utilizing PSSR and maybe at 30 to 40 frames per second, I think that makes a lot of sense. And there's, again, a bevy of games that are already available on the PlayStation Store where I look at it and I'm like, man, I would love to play those games portably, or at least have the option to play those games portably. Again, I don't think you're gonna have an instance where a Killzone Mercenary is being developed in-house for a portable platform. Uncharted Golden Abyss is created in-house for this portable platform. Rather, it's gonna be games that come out on both platforms, which I think makes the most amount of sense. It'll also be interesting to know what a price point for something like that is, and given that Microsoft is also reportedly working on a portable console, it looks like everybody is gonna have a portable option. I don't know why everybody is now looking at creating a portable device, but you know, the Steam Deck has been incredibly successful, and with a platform like this, it's just gonna be able to get more people into that ecosystem. Some people just want a portable device. They don't even want to get a PS5 or when this comes out, a PS6. They would rather just have the handheld device that plays PS4 games and PS5 games. And at that point, you can make the argument, why don't you just get a PC portable platform like an ROG Ally or a Steam Deck? But PlayStation offering one for their consumers, I think it's totally fine. I just think you have to keep your expectations in check that the days of them developing like an Uncharted Golden Abyss, a Killzone Mercenary, etc., etc., I just don't think that makes any sense. So that's my 2 cents on that. Moving on from that, this was breaking news yesterday. All good things, a look back at Shuhei Yoshida's 31 years with PlayStation. If you've listened to PlayStation podcasts over the past 14 years, then you definitely know Shuhei Yoshida, as noted on the PlayStation blog by Sid Schumann, perhaps best known for his lengthy turn as the president of PlayStation Studios during part of the PS3 and PS4 years. Dare I say, some of the best eras for PlayStation. Those latter PS3 days into the PS4, I feel like was a very pivotal moment for PlayStation, because remember, that was a moment where PlayStation actually had to restore a bit of a deficit, and they had their back against the wall against Microsoft, and look at what happened at the end of the PS3 generation into the PS4. It was quite the turnaround. Yoshida-san has spent the past few years evangelizing independent developers as head of Indies initiative at PlayStation, with PlayStation's 30th anniversary arriving next week. Got some time to catch up with Yoshida-san and discuss his career, his plans for the future, and his top game picks for the past 30 years across PlayStation. I'm not going to go over everything. I'll leave a link to the PlayStation blog with the full interview with Yoshida. Definitely check that out, as he was a key integral figure in one of PlayStation's most important time periods if you really look back at the PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4 days, because that set up for them having this stronghold into the console market. Those end of PS3 days into the PS4 days, that was a very, very big stretch of time for PlayStation as a whole. So look back at 31 years of Shuhei Yoshida at PlayStation. Again, link in the description box below. Lastly, I do want to note that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is confirmed to not be getting DLC, so Part 3 can be released sooner. FF7 Rebirth director Naoki Hamaguchi told the Daily Star, "We definitely do hear the desire from fans and the voices out there that want that kind of thing in regards to DLC. Instead of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth getting DLC, however, the team will be focusing their efforts on Part 3 of the FF7 Remake series. I understand it completely, but I think from my perspective, what the fans really want to see the most is not necessarily DLC. They want to see the third part of the series as quickly as possible. So that's what we've decided, not to focus the development resources on creating additional extra episodes for DLC. At the moment, we really are putting all our efforts into getting the third game out as quickly as we can. So for the moment, that's where we're focusing our time." I think that's the case with this. It's not that people want DLC, it's that people know that generally speaking in the game development world these days, you have to wait 4 to 5 years for these games to come out. So give us something to satiate us until the next major part is out. if they are gonna be able to get Part 3 out a little bit quicker by foregoing on DLC, hey, I am all for it, and the ideal window to bring out Part 3 is 2027. That would be the 30th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII, and if you could wrap up the remake trilogy, Part 3, 30th anniversary, that would be remarkable. Like, just the timing as far as that's concerned, and I feel like that's what they're aiming for. Remember, FF7 Remake came out in March of 2020. We got Intergrade in 2021, and then 3 years after Intergrade, we got Rebirth. In today's gaming world, a 4-year turnaround with a DLC, that's very, very good. I mean, there's a lot of games these days that are taking 5 to 6 years in development, and for a game the scale and size of FF7 Rebirth only taking 4 years or even 3 years if you compare it to when Intergrade came out, that is remarkable. And given that they have all the fundamental gameplay aspects and all of that in place right now, I don't think 2027 is out of the realm of possibility. If it's spring 2027, maybe that's a little bit early, but fall of 2027, I think that would be an ideal time to bring out Part 3 of the FF7 Remake trilogy. And then after that, look, Final Fantasy VII is a marquee IP. It's such an enormous juggernaut of a franchise. Like, Final Fantasy is a franchise, but Final Fantasy VII is like a franchise within a franchise with all the compilation titles. There's still content that they could do. I think everybody wants to see Vincent's story executed properly and doing it very well. Remember, in the original FF7, he was an optional character that really didn't get a lot of development, but they did have Dirge of Cerberus come out on the PlayStation 2, and yeah, they could remaster Dirge, but I don't think... Dirge is cool in the sense that Vincent got his own game, but I think if you guys go back and play Dirge is not that great of a game. Like, would I play it again? Absolutely, but I would love to see Vincent get his own, you know, whether it be a DLC content, whether it be, like, his own standalone game, I really do think would do well, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to create more content within FF7 after Part 3. You've got the foundational gameplay in place, and I remember what RGG talked about. It's just like, these developers spend so much time and resources into crafting these worlds, crafting these gameplay systems, only to throw it away after it's finished. No, you can build upon it, and RGG has been so successful with that, and I think Square Enix could do that as well with FF7. I get that they say, oh, the sales numbers haven't met our expectations. Brother, Final Fantasy 17 ain't gonna meet your expectations if Final Fantasy 7, the remake trilogy, hasn't met your expectations. That just is what it is. Maybe new multi-platform release, I think these games on day one on PC would do very, very well, but if we're gonna do that as the barometer, alright, like, FF7 is your biggest juggernaut that you are gonna do. Maybe you could do something with FF17 that would make it huge, but is it gonna be bigger than the 7 remake? I don't know, but I think 7 is just something they could continue releasing content for, and I think people would eat it up. But that's my 2 cents on that. But that is going to do it for me. Again, Sony is reportedly working on a new handheld console for PlayStation 5 games. Again, keep your expectations in check as far as what to expect out of that. Shuhei Yoshida, all good things. A look back at his 31 years with PlayStation on the PlayStation blog, and FF7 Rebirth is not getting DLC. Hopefully, Remake Part 3 does come out in 2027. That's going to do it for me. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.